Hey guys, so as expected over this past weekend, a lot of the YWC members, YouTube members of the wrestling community, came out doing their podcasts, doing their YouTube shows, live streams, if you will, and not only, once again gave the condolences and prayers to the family of Jay Briscoe, who tragically passed away in a car accident this past Tuesday. As well as sent well wishes to the daughters who, thank the Lord, are doing a lot better now. Telling us that they're making a vast improvement on the road to recovery. As well as letting us know that the GoFundMe for the family has exceeded its goal. Thank the Lord on that. But they also used this opportunity to kind of vent a little bit. And what I mean by vent is they let out how they felt about the whole Warner Brothers Discovery situation. And like a lot of us, they were not happy. I mean, they pointed out everything that everybody has pointed out and more so. They pointed out the fact that the hypocrisy behind the WBD not allowing Tony Khan to do a tribute show the following night after the tragedy on Dynamite for Jay Briscoe, and having to wait till after the Rampage tapings to even do a tribute show, which is going to be aired for free on Honor Club and the Ring of Honor's YouTube channel. They pointed out, like I said, everything that was hypocritical, easy for me to say, about this ordeal. Because they pointed out the fact that here you have Warner Bros. Discovery, still allowing Dana White to put on a show, even if it was held off by a week, because of what he did in Las Vegas during a New Year's party to his wife, which people will point out that she kind of instigated, but then he just continued. He continued, if you will, multiple times in response to her. They point out that they're still letting him have his show. A show that basically features people slapping each other, but doing it in a way to where the person that gets slapped, they can't retaliate. They gotta basically stand there, stiff up, and take it. And these kind of slaps could lead to potential concussions or injuries, facial injuries themselves. And yet, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, you're letting that be aired. What's the difference? What's the big deal? What's the issue?" And then they also point out the whole Ezra Miller situation and the fact that he's still being promoted as the Flash despite, entering a guilty plea bargain recently for one of the things he did, as well as also facing multiple other charges in the future for other things that he did. And it's like, okay, you're allowing this guy to still, be promoted as your Flash, for the upcoming Flash movie, which obviously, WBD is hoping hits a certain mark, box office wise to, be able to justify, James Gunn rebooting and retconning the DCEU in a direction that it needs to go. You're allowing that. They point out several times that they've allowed AEW to do other things, like bringing in Nick Gage, despite how Nick Gage would always tout himself for saying, I did this to David Arquette's jugular. I stabbed him in the jugular, and I'm using a piece. And I robbed a bank and everything. It's like you're allowing him to be on there and all that, but you're not going to allow a simple tribute to somebody who's in the past decade made atonement for what they said and did. You're not going to allow this guy to, get, the thank you that he deserves, for his contributions to the business and as a family man outside of the business, all because of something he said, on social media over a decade ago, something that he's made atonement for, something that he's made amends for, something that he's gone out and now help promote and say, hey, look, I was wrong for what I did. And this is, why we need to embrace and love our fellow man and woman, especially of the LGBTQ. You're not going to allow the company to put a tribute on for this guy, a guy who, lost his life, of no fault of his own, whose daughters could have lost theirs. Thank the Lord they didn't. You don't want to do that because what? Because Tony Khan's not paying you enough? Because the Briscoes wore the Confederate flag on the gear for most of the career? Basically most of the career in a lot of their matches. Is that it? Or is it maybe because whoever this person is, according to people like JD and, Solid Monster and everything, JD from NY206 that is, and even Andrew Zarian of the Madman podcast, is it because of the fact that whoever the exec is over at Warner Bros. Discovery is part of the, left wing, the part of the council culture, woke culture, SJW culture? Is that it? Because, if that person is, and I've talked about this in a previous video I did before work, this is a huge L on the WBD's part, but also it shows the hypocrisy. It shows the hypocrisy in a huge way. I mean, I don't know who was it. Was it Andrew Zarian or whoever? They pointed out that, hey, you still air episodes of Family Guy and, American Dad, and they have dealt and tackled, certain things that would be controversial, and yet you're still okay with that. It's like, it's like where's the justice? Like where is basically the unbiasedness? There is none. There's nothing but hypocrisy. And again, this is what really, makes people kind of pissed about, Tony Khan working with Warner Bros. Discovery, because this is not the first time Warner Bros. Discovery has pretty much, come out and said, Tony Khan, you might own AEW, but since we're the ones allowing you to have it on our networks, we're pretty much the ones running it. I mean, here's the thing. You have Tony Khan, basically using one of his dynamites to promote House of Dragon. You have Tony Khan getting in trouble for, the pizza slicer deal when it came to Nate Gage, who, again, people point out and say, hey, you let him on there, despite the fact of how he's kind of touted himself and what he's done. But yet we have to remember they did get in trouble for the pizza slice thing, thanks to somebody like, I guess within WWE kind of, telling Domino's, hey, look what got aired during, picture in picture when your commercial came on. But still, you have the WBD getting on them about all that, as well as some other things, maybe some not so noticeable. And again, this is why some people wonder, why Tony Khan would even want to work with these people anymore. I mean, JD basically said it best, I should say. JD from NY206 on his OTS off the script live stream yesterday. He said it best. It's like, and even Solomon has said it. And in fact, everybody, I think, has said it. Andrew Zarian, I think, pointed this out too. Tony Khan has his hands tied. He does. It's like, yeah, he can get away with, having bloodbath matches, if you will. Death matches, if you will. He can get away with doing that. But yet, he, it's like he can get away with doing that, but yet he can't get away with bringing in a tag team like the Briscoes, who fans want to see. He's not allowed to do that. And again, especially with the fact that, one of the Briscoes, before he tragically passed, made atonement for what he had said and done. It's like, and here's the thing. Here's what really pisses people off. It's like all these things that I mentioned, the Dana White deal, Ezra Miller, Nick Gage, and so on, and probably some other stuff. It's like, it's like to them, it's like all that was recent, in the past couple of months, year or so, whatever, and yet you are more worried about something that was said over a decade ago. And again, as I was trying to get back on track here, I got a little distracted there. Trying to get back on track here. The thing that really gets under people's skin is why would Tony Khan want to do business with them? Because as I was saying before, like I said, I got a little distracted there to see what that noise was outside. Basically, they have said it best. It's like Tony Khan has his hands tied. It's like he can't really do anything. It's like he's allowed to have these bloodbaths and all that, between, the men and the women and all that, have the blood and guts match every year and all that, and that's fine. And TBS and TNT is cool with that, but yet they're not cool with bringing in the Briscoes. They're not cool with allowing a celebration of life, a tribute to someone who tragically lost a life, that was not of their fault, whose daughters could have lost theirs. Thank God they didn't. And yet you're more worried about your public image, possibly with the woke culture and the cancel culture and the SJWs. That right there is what pissed a lot of folks off. It pissed them off. And again, you go and watch what JD from NY206 had to say. You go and see what Andrew Zarian had to say. You go and hear what Salamos had to say, and they've all basically feel the same way. That this is hypocrisy at its finest. That's what it is. It is hypocrisy at its finest, and it pisses them and everybody else off. It pisses them and everybody else off. That's what it does. It pisses them and everybody else off. And it makes people wonder, why would Tony Khan want to continue working with them? I mean, yeah, working with them guarantees a big payday for you, big money conglomerate payday. But if you're a wrestling fan, a true wrestling fan like you say you are, why would you want to continue working with these people knowing, of the hypocrisy? Knowing that, hey, we're not going to allow you to do certain things or bring in certain people and da-da-da-da-da-da, because it's not what we see. It's not how we envision it. And I think JD said it best towards the end of when he was towards the end of the clip from his live stream yesterday. I think he said it best. It's going to make things very, very awkward for, Tony Khan when it comes to negotiating a new media rights deal with, the WBD when it comes to AEW Dynamite. Because I think what JD's trying to point out there when he mentions that is knowing Tony Khan. Now, he doesn't know him personally, but knowing how someone like Tony Khan thinks, who's to say Tony Khan, when negotiating a new contract and everything, for AEW Dynamite and Rampage to remain on TBS and TNT, who's to say Tony Khan won't, bring up the whole, Briscoe situation and all that, and say, hey, look, why didn't you let me put a tribute show on for Jay Briscoe like I did for John Huber? Why didn't you let me do that? I'm sure Tony Khan might bring that up, and I think JD kind of sees that too, that he might bring something like that up during the negotiation deals and try to work something out. But, here's the thing. People, again, wonder why would Tony Khan still want to deal with them? After having them basically block, multiple things, basically call AEW out for multiple things, why would you still want to work with them? To a lot of folks, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and it probably never will. But again, we got to look at it from Tony Khan's perspective. Yeah, he may not like some of the things Warner Brothers Discovery is throwing his way and telling him, not to do and everything, acting like they are running the company and not him. Acting like they own it, I should say, and not him. I'm sure Tony Khan doesn't like what they're doing, some of the decisions they're throwing his way, or blocking some of the things he wants to do. But, he probably looks at the fact that, hey, I may not like it, I may not like it, but right now, it's the only logical networks that are going to give us the airtime to showcase our product, because without them, where do we go? Do we negotiate with Paramount? Do we negotiate with somebody else? Or do we go straight to streaming, straight to YouTube, and, that's it? Right now, again, he has his hands tied. And that is a fact. He does have his hands tied. But I think a lot of us can agree that he, as a fan himself, is not happy with what's going on in this current negotiations, this current deal with Warner Bros. Discovery. And hopefully, and he is a smart man, we can give him credit for that. Hopefully, he comes up with an idea. He comes up with a negotiation idea to try to get them to allow him to do, certain things that he wasn't able to do in the past when it comes to AEW and maybe even Ring of Honor. But we have to see, but again, as a lot of people point out, the hypocrisy by the WBD is just at an all-time level here. And his thing, it's not helped enough that they're dealing with the whole VENMO backlash that they're getting right now. And that's something that they don't need, because they were hoping to bank on that being a success, and that's blowing up in their face. And again, that's another part of the hypocrisy, but we'll talk about that later in another video. But still, it's like nobody can, quite understand why they would do this, why they would even basically, what's the word I'm looking for? They would even basically, just spit on, I don't want to say it that way, but basically spit on the legacy of somebody that has gone out and made atonement for who they are, for what they said, and tried to be a better person because of it. It just doesn't really, register with a lot of folks. And honestly, I don't blame them. I really don't. I honestly do not blame them for feeling that way. But yeah, over this past weekend, every other voice, from JD to Solid Monster to, Andrew Zarian, everybody, and I'm pretty sure more are going to come out, have voiced the disdain with WBD. And you know what? Maybe this might wake WBD up. Maybe this might get David Zaslav's attention and make him realize, okay, maybe I put the wrong people in charge, in certain departments. And hopefully, if it does get his attention to where he realizes that, then maybe whoever he does put in charge, or whatever the aftermath will be, hopefully maybe Tony Khan might be able to fully live broadcast a tribute to Jay Briscoe on TBS or TNT. But we just have to see what happens. But anyway, though, guys, I just wanted to talk about that, get my thoughts on it. Again, you could check these out. I'll try to provide at least 2 of them at the end here. You guys get to see that, to see people's reactions on it. And, really, that's all I have to say about the whole situation. Let me know what your thoughts are. Comment down below. I got to get ready for work, guys, and I am out.